Good evening from Bramlage Coliseum in Manhattan. Dan Lucero with you for this K-State instant reaction as the Kansas State Wildcats suffer their third consecutive loss in Big 12 play, and for the first time all season suffer back-to-back losses as they let a 14-point first-half lead get away in a 69-66 loss to Texas in this battle of top 10 ranked teams in the Big 12 this afternoon. This is a tough one for K-State to stomach because they had nothing go right for them in the first 20 minutes and still led by as many as 14 in the first half. Keontae Johnson was in immediate foul trouble, 2 fouls in the first 67 seconds, barely played in the first half, and even picked up a third foul with about 5.5 minutes to go in the half. Marquise Noel did not have a good first half, 1 of 5 from the field. Those are the two K-State stars, and the Wildcats got virtually nothing from them in the first 20 minutes, and yet they still led the game by as many as 14 points. They got good bench production, particularly from Desi Sills in that first half. Led 36-22 when Tyke Green, in his only action of the game, fouled a three-point shooter with 0.4 of a second remaining in the first half. And Serge Rice knocked down all 3 free throws. That made the score 36-25 K-State going into the locker room. And as it turned out, that was a pretty crucial part of the game because it sparked Texas, and they came out in the second half with a much different attitude, a much different aggression that Kansas State coach Jerome Tang pointed out in his post-game remarks, and Texas went to work. They made 8 of their first 11 shots and took a 46-45 lead, going on a big run to take the lead. And then the game settled into a bit more of a back and forth, but K-State was on the back foot. They were on their heels the entire second half because of how slowly they started. Their lead went from 14 with less than a second left in the first half to only 3 by the under-16 media timeout. Credit Kansas State. They found their bearings. They got some stops, clawed away at what ended up being as much as a 6-point deficit, and took the lead with 1 minute to play and a Marquise Noel runner. But on the other end, Christian Bishop scored inside with 37 seconds to play. He was the story for Kansas, Christian Bishop. K-State couldn't handle it. They couldn't match his aggressiveness in the paint. He either scored or grabbed rebounds of missed shots and scored. He was Texas's best player in the second half. Ended up with 14 points. Just the third time in Big 12 play that Bishop, who's their 6th man, their reserve forward off the bench, has scored in double figures, and it's the second most points he's scored in a game all season. And points number 13 and 14 put Texas ahead. Kansas State had a chance on the other end. Missed a shot. Noel was stuffed at the rim. Then on the rebound, Kansas State turned it over, and it was turnovers that really bit Kansas State in this one. 19 turnovers in this game, and that is far too many empty possessions. I thought Jerome Tang had a great answer. I asked him in the post-game press conference about the turnovers, and he said that he thinks right now his team is trying to hit too many home runs when a single would suffice, trying to get out and maybe run a little bit and throw risky outlet passes when you create a turnover or you get a rebound, because a lot of Kansas State's turnovers, I'm speaking anecdotally here, I don't have a number, but there were several K-State turnovers in this game that came immediately following a rebound or immediately following a steal or a turnover of Texas's own, because Texas had 17 turnovers. You love that defensively if you're Kansas State, but you lose the turnover battle and you force 17, that is a lot of empty possessions. And Tang made sure to point out, as he was speaking to the press after the game, this league is too good, and K-State's margin for error is not big enough, nobody's is in this league, to survive that many empty possessions. So that's what K-State's going to have to certainly work on moving forward as they, again, suffer their third straight league loss. In a vacuum, none of them are bad losses. At Iowa State, where they never lose. At Kansas, where they never lose. And now a 3-point loss to Texas. But this one will sting because of the nature of it, having had a 14-point first-half lead with nothing going right. And then in the second half, with Keontae Johnson staying out of foul trouble, Kansas State still unable to get things going and match what Texas brought to the table in those final 20 minutes. Texas had 5 guys in double figures. Bishop and Serge Rice, 14 points apiece. Rice was really big in the second half for Texas as well, hit a couple of big threes. Marcus Carr, Tyrese Hunter, Timmy Allen, 10 points apiece also for the Longhorns. Keontae Johnson finished with 16 points in just 24 minutes of action for Kansas State, limited due to first half foul trouble. 11 points for Desi Sills off the bench. Good game from him. 10 points for Marquise Noel. First time all year I think Marquise Noel has played what I would call a bad game. Tried to do too much, bad shot selection, way too many turnovers for your point guard. 6 turnovers to just 3 assists. And that is not how you win games in this league. Those are the double-figure scorers for Kansas State in the loss. So now, like everyone predicted, 10 games into the conference season, it's Texas and Iowa State, a clear 1-2 in the conference standings. Yeah, we all saw that coming, right? Texas at 8-2, Iowa State at 7-3 after their win over Kansas in Ames earlier this afternoon. And then a big group at 4 losses, which includes Baylor, who's already won today, Kansas, Kansas State, and TCU, who lost earlier to Oklahoma State. And it's TCU who comes to Manhattan Tuesday night for a must-have game for the Wildcats. The Horned Frogs and the Wildcats, K-State trying to avenge a one-sided loss in Fort Worth from January. That'll do it from Bramlage Coliseum on our instant reaction on YouTube. You can check out our full reaction on Monday to this one, to KU's loss, and, of course, the start of previewing Super Bowl week on the Sports on 580 family of shows, mic'd up from noon to 3 with Jake LeBond and Fulton Caster, and 580 Sports Talk from 3 to 6 with yours truly, Dan Lucero and Brendan Wrzinski. One more time, your final score from the Octagon tonight, Texas 69, Kansas State 66. I'm Dan Lucero saying good night from Bramlage Coliseum.